This is a reading from Modern Saints by Anne Ball. 11. Saint Anthony Mary Claret. Anthony Claret was born 1807. He died 1870. Born in Spain, died in France at the age of 62. From weaver to priest to archbishop, Anthony Claret spent his days in the full service of his Lord and his mother Mary. The author of 144 books, founder of 3 religious orders, a proponent of land reforms, and a builder and organizer of many projects dealing with youth. Anthony spent his last years fleeing from persecution and political calumny. At his death in 1870, the famous lament of St. Gregory was carved on his tombstone. I have loved justice and hated iniquity, therefore I die in exile. Anthony was born on Christmas Eve in 1807, a Christmas present for his parents, Juan and Josefina Claret. Anthony was the 5th of 11 children. His father owned a small textile mill in Catalonia. Anthony learned to read early, and religion and mathematics were his favorite subjects in school. He was popular with his classmates, and when his presence was missed for a game, they knew where to find him, in the church making a visit. From the time he was a young child, Anthony wanted to become a priest. His father, however, noticed his mechanical aptitude and skill in design and wanted Anthony to follow him in the trade of weaving. Anthony was impulsive by nature, but with great effort he gained such complete self-control that few who knew him even suspected what this cost him. In deference to his father's wishes, he studied to become a weaver and worked so well that he was soon made head of the shop. Once Anthony gained the confidence of the workers, he invited them to pray the rosary with him daily and to attend Mass often. He did not dock their pay for the time spent in these devotions, and under his direction the shop began to prosper. Even in his teens, he understood that happy workers would be more productive. At age 18, Anthony asked his father to allow him to go to a trade school in Barcelona to learn more advanced methods. Here he studied hard and worked in a factory to support himself. Although he enjoyed the work and made many friends, he began to think of his vocation to the priesthood and went to the Oratorian fathers for advice. They encouraged him to begin a study of Latin. At 21, Anthony realized that he did indeed have a priestly vocation, and under the patronage of the Bishop of Vich, he began seminary studies. Throughout his life, Anthony had a great devotion to Our Lady. He wrote, Our Blessed Lady is my mother, my patroness, my mistress, my directress, and after Jesus, my all. Such devotion would not be unrewarded. Throughout his life, Anthony was privileged to see the Blessed Mother in several visions, and she often gave him help. Anthony himself added the name of his heavenly mother to his own name. Anthony was finally ordained at the age of 28. In Spain, he served first as a parish priest and later as a pastor. In 1839, seeing that Spain had many priests, he went to Rome to ask to be sent as a missionary to foreign lands. He met the Jesuits and for a time thought he should join them. But in the novitiate, he developed a strange paralysis of the leg which made it impossible for him to continue. As soon as he left, his leg was immediately cured, and Anthony took this as a sign that it was not the work to which Our Lady wished to direct him. Later, he went as a missionary to the Canary Islands at the invitation of the bishop, and after a fruitful apostolate there, he returned again to Spain. During his time in Spain, thousands were converted through his zeal for soul. It is estimated that during his lifetime, he preached over 25,000 sermons. Back in Spain, Father Claret took a special interest in the catechetical instruction of both children and adults. His belief in the value of this apostolate led him to open several centers dedicated to instruction in Christian doctrine. He composed 4 books on the subject, graded as to age level, and introduced the novelty of illustrations for the books. At the numerous missions he preached, he would gather the children and adults around him to explain some point of doctrine that he would later reinforce in his sermons. He recruited helpers if the number was too great, usually saving the smallest children or the slowest adults for his own group. Anthony wanted these children of God to understand their religion completely, and because of his work, the Catechetical Congress of Valladolid later gave him the title of the most outstanding catechist of the 19th century. On July 16, 1849, Father Claret met with 5 young clerics at the seminary at Vich. He had seen a tremendous need for missioners and decided to form a congregation of missionary priests dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. After he outlined his ideas for the congregation, one of the seminarians objected that they were young and few in number. With confidence and conviction, Anthony replied that through the power of God, this congregation would flourish. He predicted that it would spread worldwide. This prediction has come true. As to the specific apostolate for this group of missionary priests, Father Claret listed some types of work, including teaching Christian doctrine and the establishment of the apostolate of the press. He closed his remarks, however, by telling these young men to make use of all possible means to save souls. On a visit to Cuba, Father Claret became convinced of the need for a new order of sisters for teaching Catholic girls, and in collaboration with Antonia Paris, he formed the Teaching Sisters of Mary Immaculate. He also aided Dr. Mazmidja in the foundation of the Immaculate Heart Sisters. Father Claret realized that many young women with a call to serve God were prohibited for various reasons from entering a religious order. So he established a sodality to meet this end. Over his own objections, Anthony was named Archbishop of Cuba in 1849. One look at his diocese convinced him, however, that this land was a true field for a missionary. The major seminary had ordained no priest in 30 years. Under his influence, there were soon over 200 seminarians in residence. As Archbishop, he immediately began to visit each city and town, regularizing marriages, administering confirmation, and establishing a Christian solution to every problem he saw. During his time in Cuba, he confirmed 100,000 people and rectified 9,000 marriages. This new archbishop so completely won the confidence of his people that during the revolution at Port Principe, he was asked to be a mediator. Favored by God with the gift of prophecy, he foresaw both an earthquake and an epidemic of cholera. When both of these unfortunate predictions came true, he personally went to every part of his diocese to give aid and comfort to the victims. Archbishop Claret introduced a system of teaching modern methods of agriculture to the farmers through a network of organizations in order to provide for a large number of homeless boys. He established a modern ranch. The ranch was self-supporting through sale of the crops raised, and the boys were given a good education at a school on the ranch, which had, in addition to classrooms, a library, science laboratories, and a botanical garden. Because change is always resented by some, there were a few who saw a threat in this saintly archbishop. Once, an assassin succeeded in getting close enough to slash at him with a knife. Fortunately, the wounds were not serious, although he was cut in several places. In 1856, Queen Isabella II recalled the archbishop to Spain, wishing him to be her personal confessor. The thought of a life at court was repugnant to him, but at the express wish of Pope Pius IX, he went. Back in Spain, in addition to his duties at court, Anthony continued writing, preaching, and teaching. As in any court, there were many intrigues. Anthony was offered bribes and other inducements to use his influence with the Queen. All attempts failed, and he let it be known that he refused to mix politics in any way. Thwarted, some liberal politicians began to slander him, and several attempts were made on his life. Fortunately, through his gift of foreknowledge, he was sometimes able to see in advance the designs of the would-be assassins. In fact, more than one of these actually became his converts. In 1865, when the Queen recognized the new Kingdom of Italy in opposition to papal right, Archbishop Claret wished to resign. But again, following the instructions of the Pope, he continued at the court until he was exiled to France during the Spanish Revolution of 1869. During his time at court, in addition to his other activities, Anthony had organized the Academy of St. Michael, a group of writers and artists. He organized numerous clubs for all classes of people, established credit unions in parishes, and was designated president of the Escorial, a large educational institution. Pius XI called him Apostle of the Press because of his ministry of the written word. His theory was, since we cannot send missionaries everywhere, let us send good books, which can do as much good as the missionaries themselves. During his exile, he traveled to Rome for the Vatican Council. The main concern of this council was the doctrine of papal infallibility, a doctrine that has always been misunderstood and misinterpreted by many. Anthony asked to be allowed to speak, and with simple eloquence he pointed out the roots of this doctrine in scripture and tradition. There is reason to believe that his remarks and his already acknowledged reputation for sanctity exercised a crucial influence in the deliberations. Anthony Claret was not born a saint. Throughout his life, he had a constant struggle against defects in his own nature. In his attempt to fulfill the purpose of his existence, he spent his life trying to serve and love God as perfectly as possible. In his last days, because of political persecution, he was forced to flee from place to place, finding sanctuary at last in the Cistercian monastery at Fontfroide. He died there on October 24th, 1870, exiled from his beloved Spain, but united with his two greatest loves, the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Anthony Mary Claret was beatified in 1934 and canonized in 1950. Here's a picture of him. The caption reads, "In his 7 years as Archbishop of Cuba, St. Anthony Mary Claret confirmed 100,000 people and rectified 9,000 marriages. During his life, he preached over 25,000 sermons, wrote 144 books, and founded 3 religious orders. He died in exile." Here's another picture of him. And then the caption on this one says, "St. Anthony Mary Claret saw the Blessed Mother several times during his life. He added her name to his own."